Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So today we are bringing you a brand new Rise of Heroes video, and today we're going to be looking at 7 units that are really good to farm early on, and they're also free to play friendly. So you don't have to spend any money to pick up these units, you can just get them just by playing the game. The first 2 units that we are going to look at, we're going to kind of look at them as a pair because you get them very early on as playing the game. Those 2 units are Princess Jasmine and Prince Bashik. So we're going to look at Jasmine first, and then we'll look at Bashik after. So Princess Jasmine is the very first unit you get when you start the game. She's the very first summon you get. And she is a really good unit to have early on. She is a support unit. Her first skill here has an 80% chance to inflict an attack reduction for 1 turn, which is really strong. Helps you survive damage early on into the game. And her second skill as well is going to clear all debuffs off of 1 ally and also heal them as well. And the heal is based off of her attack. So the higher you stack her attack, not only the more damage she's going to do, but she's also going to heal for a lot more as well. And then once you awaken her for the first time, Jasmine and Bashik have this unique mechanic where you can awaken them twice. I believe they're the only 2 units in the game that have that. Once you awaken her the first time, you get this third skill as well, which is going to attack 1 enemy and then give a 20% shield on your team for 2 turns. And then when you awaken her a second time, her third skill goes up to attacks 1 enemy and removes most 3 targets debuff at most 3 targets buffs. Sorry, so she so it strips as well on her third skill once you get her awakened, and then each buff removed moves all allies' actions up by 10%, and then she also still gives that 20% shield for 2 rounds. So when you get her awakened a second time, her third skill starts to strip, and then your team all moves, their turn meter moves up by 10% for each buff that was stripped. So that can be really useful in certain areas. The Amit Tower, that boss gets attack boost and a defense boost as well. So being able to strip those off is going to be really useful and help your team survive a lot longer in that boss raid, because that's going to be one of the main boss raids that you, or the main boss tower that you focus on for gems, because there's some really good gem sets in there. Attack, crit rating, speed as well. So there's a lot of really good gem sets from the Amit boss. And then the kind of like the pair unit to look at is Prince Bashik. Again, you get him very early on as well. Once you complete the first adventure scenario, once you complete the Oasis and you kill the final boss there, you get Prince Bashik on your team as well. He starts off as a 4-star, so he's a Nat 4. Looking at his skills here, and like I said, again, you can awaken him twice. All of his attack skills are AoE damage as well, so he's also going to be a really good unit to use as your farmer early on. So his first attack here attacks an enemy 3 times, and the final attack attacks just the entire enemy team. However many units are there, they're all going to get hit by the final hit. And it also gives him 1 round of armor boost as well, which is pretty handy. And then this second skill, Unstoppable, here is going to attack all enemies, and it has an additional 30% life leech. So this makes him really beneficial to give a blood set of gems, which is life leech percentage. Also, the gem that's in slot 6 can also roll life leech percent as its main stat. So if you stack a lot of those gems together, give him a blood set and a 6-slot gem that has life leech percentage, this guy's going to recover a lot of health really quickly, and he's going to make for a really good farmer early on. And then again, when you awaken him, he gets this additional ability as well, and so it increases damage done to undead units by 15%. And each round 1 debuff is consumed. So I believe that means it just cleanses the debuff right off of him. I don't have him awakened up to the second time, so I haven't used him there. But yeah, he's a really good unit. Even if you just get the first awakening, he's still a super solid unit. And he's going to be like your main damage dealer early on. Like I said, you get him right as soon as you complete the Oasis. Board 1-6, you get him. And if you just slap a fire set of runes on him early on to boost his attack, that's going to be really helpful. And then later on, you can switch him over to some good blood runes that you can get through some challenges to turn him into your farmer. But he's going to be very beneficial to have on your team early on. The next unit we're going to look at is Scarlag. Now, Scarlag is a Nat 2. Most of the units that we're going to look at until we get to the very last one are all Nat 2s. So that means they're very, very easy to obtain. Scarlag you can actually farm in the mountain, which is scenario 4. You can farm him there, and because he's in Nat 2, he only takes 100 shards to summon. And then you can get him, because you can farm shards for him there pretty easily. That also makes him very easy to skill up. So having his skills maxed out super early is going to be very, very beneficial. So we're just going to take a quick look at what he does here. So his first attack here has a chance to inflict an armor reduction, and you can see there that the effective rate of that armor break goes up the more you skill him up. And then on his second skill, each hit has a chance to inflict an armor reduction. So he's got attack reduction on his first skill and an armor reduction on his second skill, which is very, very handy. And then his third skill restores up to 40% HP for all allies. That's when he's awakened. Unawakened, it's 25%. And the more allies that are still alive on your team, the more that heal is going to heal for. So having lots of your teammates stay alive, this guy's going to heal them for much, much more. So it kind of plays into each other as well. He can heal them for much more, which prevents them from dying, which means he can keep healing them for much more. And again, you can farm him in the mountain range, and the best board to farm him on is the third one here. Wherever you see this little like helmet icon, it means that this stage has lots of obelisk nodes, and whenever you farm or whenever you complete a stage on an obelisk node, you're going to get more rewards. So completing obelisks, if you can complete this on Nightmare, which it's not super difficult to complete on Nightmare, especially if you're using Jasmine and Bashik to give shields and do lots of AoE damage. It's not super difficult to get this down on Nightmare. You'll be able to get 25 Scarlag shards every time you hit an obelisk, assuming it gives you shards, which most of the time it will. Sometimes it gives you silver lamps or other 1-stars or 2-stars. But yeah, all you need to do is just get 100 shards for him, and then you can summon him. And again, if you just go in here and you keep farming the path and hit all 3 obelisks and then kill the boss, you'll be able to get lots of shards for him, which means you can summon multiple versions of him, and then you can just feed them into the main one you keep for your team and be able to get his skills maxed out early on, which is going to be very, very useful. The next unit we're going to look at here is Czar. Now, Czar you can only get through Silver Lamp summons, or if a Mirage Tower appears for Czar, you can start running that to collect shards for him as well. So just keep an eye on chat whenever a Czar tower appears. If you've got space on your friends list, try to get the person who discovered it added to your friends list, because that's the only way you can get into those towers, is if they're on your friends list. And then you can run through that and get some shards to summon him, or if you just get lucky from a silver lamp, you can get him there as well. So looking at his abilities here, his first attack can inflict an armor reduction, which is again very, very useful. His second attack can also inflict an attack reduction, which is very, very similar to what Scarlag does, but here's what makes this guy unique and makes him very, very useful. He has a passive that each attack he does clears 1 buff from the target that you hit, and then when he's awakened, if you successfully remove a buff, he'll recover 10% of his max HP. Now, this is incredibly, incredibly useful for the Amit boss. The Amit boss gets an attack boost and an armor boost as well, and having this guy be able to just, every time he hits the boss, just take that buff off is incredibly, incredibly useful. The Amit boss does a big AoE swipe attack, and if he hits your team with that swipe and he's got an attack buff, it's almost over for your team. Especially in the higher stages, it's just going to hit your team for so much damage, so being able to reliably take the attack buff off of the boss is incredibly useful. And with this guy having the passive to do that, you just want to basically slap a set of Hawkeye runes on him, as well as a set of Rapid. So that way he's going very frequently, and the Hawkeye gives him additional accuracy to strip that buff off of the boss or whoever you're fighting. But he's very, very useful against the Amit boss. Definitely a really, really good unit to pick up to help you push further into Amit. And like I said, he's free to play friendly, but you do have to rely on getting him out of the silver lamps or being able to get him from a Mirage Tower that just appears. The next unit we're going to look at is Varrock. Now, Varrock can only be obtained the same way that Czar can be obtained. You have to get him from a Silver Lamp summon, or if a Mirage Tower appears, you can run that and get shards to summon him from that. Varrock is a really, really handy unit. He has a 50% chance to inflict 1 round of silence on his first skill. His second skill makes an ally be able to move immediately, so it fully maxes out their turn meter, and they go next, and it also gives them 1 round of attack boost. So if it's a DPS unit, that's going to be very, very useful, having that attack boost, or if it's just, you know, you need to get some extra attacks from Czar to strip a debuff, or a buff, sorry, off of like the Amit boss. This guy is very, very useful for that. And then his final skill clears all debuffs from your team and restores everybody's HP by 15%. And again, this is very, very helpful against the Amit boss, because the Amit boss also puts a defense reduction on your entire team. And if he hits you with that big swipe attack and you've got the defense reduction, or if he's got the attack boost, or a combination of both, it's a very, very bad situation for your team. So being able to clear that defense break debuff on your entire team is incredibly, incredibly useful. If you can get his skills maxed out, it turns this into a 3-turn cooldown instead of a 5-turn cooldown, and then giving him a speed set is going to be able to make him cycle through this that much quicker, so you'll be able to keep up with the Amit boss as he's putting a defense break on your team. Again, using the Amit boss just as an example, but wherever, if you are running through a different boss or some adventure scenarios where you're getting a lot of debuffs, this guy's going to be great to cleanse those debuffs from your team and give you a little bit of healing as well. The next unit we're going to look at here is Goosal. Goosal is a support unit, and he is an incredible, incredible unit. On his first skill, he has an attack reduction. A lot of these units that we've looked at do have attack reduction, which is a very, very useful skill against bosses, because bosses can hit very, very hard. So having multiple units that have that attack reduction on your team can be very useful. You're not just going to always rely on one source to apply that attack reduction, and then if they glance, if they don't land it, then, you know, it could be a bad situation for your team. So he's got an attack reduction on his first skill. His second skill can apply a heal block. This is very useful against the Feral Dragon. Every time the Feral Dragon attacks, he heals himself. So being able to put a heal block on that dragon is almost essential for getting him down, because again, in the later stages, he's going to heal for so much that it can be very difficult to out-damage that. So you're going to have to rely on a heal block. This skill, if you skill it up, can get to a 3-round cooldown instead of 4 turns. And again, if you've got a speed set of gems on this guy, you'll basically be able to keep that that heal block up on whoever it is that you're fighting. And then if you combo him with the next unit that we're going to talk about that has some speed up and can cycle through your team that much faster, you're going to be able to reliably keep that boss heal blocked. And then his final skill is a heal for your entire team. And again, if you skill this up, you can get it up to a restore 50% HP for all allies. And then you'll also be able to have 3 rounds of attack boost, which again, attack boost is super, super useful in pretty much every scenario. Now, to get Goosal, you don't have to rely on silver lamps, although you can get Goosal from a silver lamp summon. You can farm Goosal shards from the Oasis, and if you go to stage 5 again where you see the Obelisk, you can get Goosal shards from 1-5 here. And again, Nightmare is very, very easy on this this very first scenario. It's the easiest Nightmare you'll encounter. And again, because Goosal's only a Nat 2, you only need 100 shards to summon it, and then you can just keep repeatedly running through the Eastern Oasis to get more and more shards to summon multiple versions of Goosal, and then just again feed it to Goosal, similar to what we were talking about with Scarlag earlier, and then you can get Goosal's skills maxed out very early on, and it's going to make Goosal a much, much better unit for your team. The last unit we're going to talk about is Magana, or Meg. She is, out of this list, the hardest unit to obtain if you're free to play, but she is probably going to be the most valuable. So she has, on her first skill, it's just a damage attack, but the damage is based off of her speed attribute. So the more speed you stack onto her, the more damage this first skill is going to do, and you are going to want to stack a lot of speed on her. Not just for extra damage, for her final skill, which we'll get to in a second. Speed is incredibly, incredibly valuable on this unit. Her second skill here inflicts both an attack and armor reduction off of the same skill, which is huge. That's very, very handy. You can use the one skill, and then boom, you've got both debuffs on. You don't have to rely on using 2 different skills from her, or having 2 different units that each do one, one doing the armor break and one doing the defense reduction. She's going to do both off of the same skill, which is very, very valuable. And then her final skill, she can up your entire team's turn meters by 30% and then give your entire team a speed boost for 2 rounds. And this has got a cooldown of 5 rounds, but if you get it skilled up, you can get it to a 3-turn cooldown, which is incredibly, incredibly valuable. Again, you're going to be stacking speed on her as like the main stat you go for, so she's going to want a rapid set as well as a Hawkeye set to reliably land the attack and the armor reduction on these from her second skill, but then you just want to get speed as much as possible. This her 6-slot gem, you want a speed main, and all the other gems you want to have speed in their secondary stats, and as you're upgrading them, you want to make sure that the secondary stat upgrades roll on that speed as well. So the more speed you can stack on her, the better. She's going to be able to keep your team going fast, and then her first skill is also going to be able to do extra damage as well. Now, what makes her difficult to get is you get her from the desert. You get her from stage 2, scenario 6. You get her from the hidden path. So she is a nat 3, so it takes 200 shards to summon her instead of just 100. So already you have to farm twice as many shards. But what makes it even more challenging is in order to get to this, in order to have this node open up, you need to run an entire team that has that is full of units from the undead faction, and they all have to survive these first 2 battles in order for that hidden node to open up. So it can be kind of tricky early on, especially to farm this on Nightmare. So my recommendation is, if you don't have the best undead units, is just run through this on normal, and you'll probably have to run through this quite a few times because the most shards I think you can get on normal for her is 11, so you'll pretty much have to run through this almost 20 times in order to get all the shards that you need for her. But she is an incredibly, incredibly valuable unit. Most likely going to be my first rank 6, just because of how versatile she is. That speed up on your entire team is so incredibly valuable, and especially for bosses, being able to cycle through your team very, very quickly to keep debuffs up on bosses and buffs up on your own team is very, very valuable. So those are 7 units that are good to work on early on for your Rise of Heroes account. Again, they are all free to play friendly. The only one that's a little bit tricky is Magana, but if you can just get at least one of her, she's going to be incredibly, incredibly useful. A couple of honorable mentions, I guess you could call them, would be Cabot here. Cabot has a 3-round attack and armor boost to your entire team, can also apply a slow to the entire enemy team, and has blind on his first skill. Again, this guy can only be obtained through silver lamps or mirage towers. And another unit that is pretty useful early on is Asp. You get him after you complete stage 2. So the desert, the 6th stage in the desert on normal. He is a really, really hard-hitting damage unit. He's going to be very helpful to your team early on in helping you progress through some of the rest of the adventure scenarios and some early boss raids. So he is a great pickup early on. Chuck him on your team, give him a set of fire runes, and his attack is going to be pretty high. So just a couple of extra units there, some little honorable mentions. If you pick those up, they're really, really helpful to your team. But that is going to do it for this video, guys, so thank you so much for watching. If you have any other suggestions for some good units to use and to focus on early on, leave them in the comments down below. I'll probably put like a pinned comment there with collecting some additional information. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, so thank you guys again for watching. If you would like to subscribe to the channel for more Rise of Heroes content, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Also, in the description down below is my Twitch link. We live stream this over on Twitch, as well as the Discord link to the Rise of Heroes Discord that has been put together. Myself and some other people are working on managing and maintaining that, so feel free to jump in the Discord as well if you're playing this game and enjoying it. But that's going to do it for now, so take care, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.